There is a hadith by Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam wherein he says, when our Imam arises, he will call people anew to Islam, guiding them to the old thing from which people have turned away. He will be called Mahdi because he will guide people to the thing from which they have been separated. Can you elaborate on what this means? Does this mean that the way we're practicing Islam is a digression of the authentic principles and practices of our Imam? Or is there another explanation? Sheikh Nasser.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You know, when I read a question like this, or when I hear a question like this, I automatically go back to Hadith al-Thaqalain, where the Holy Prophet says, إِنِّي تَارِكٌ فِيكُمُ الثَّقَلَيْنِ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ وَعِتْرَةِ أَهْلَ بَيْتِي مَا إِن تَمَسَّكْتُم بِهِمَا لَن تَضِلُّوا بَعْدِي أَبَدًا. When I look at the status of the ummah of the Holy Prophet, we all know that there are two main sects. There are the Sunnis and the Shias. And if we're going to be very honest and make an honest assessment of both of these groups, I would probably say that neither one of them has truly adhered to that final testament of the Holy Prophet. You look at the Sunni world, for example. The Sunnis, they have a much stronger connection to the Holy Quran than we do. If you take your average Sunni and your average Shi'i and you put them in the same room, most of the time you're going to find that the Sunni is more Quranically literate than the Shi'i. Conversely, you find that the Shi'as, they have a much stronger affinity to the family of the Holy Prophet. But again, what's lacking is the adherence to the Holy Quran. When the 12th Imam reappears, I believe that he will be able to rectify the problem in the Sunni world by taking them back to the spokesman of the Holy Quran, the Ahlul Bayt, and he will also rectify the problems within the Shia communities, which is this sense that love for the Ahlul Bayt is enough, and I don't need the Holy Quran. You know, I have Imam al-Hussein, I have the Imams, and therefore I don't really need to develop a connection to the Holy Quran. This is number one. Number two, when the 12th Imam reappears, and as you mentioned, there are narrations that suggest that it will be as though he's bringing a new faith, a new religious tradition. Now, what that means is that, number one, we know that there have been many innovations that have been introduced to Islam. I mean, there's a laundry list of innovations and practices that were injected into the Islamic tradition after the Holy Prophet. Now, the Holy Imam alayhi salam will demonstrate that these practices were not part and parcel of the tradition of the Holy Prophet, number one. So exposing the bid'ah that took place. Number two, the ahadith that we have from the Ahlul Bayt represent a drop in the face of an ocean of traditions that actually existed. You know, Al-Kutub al-Arba'a, these 4 books of ahadith that we have, those are only really a small portion of the actual traditions that were transmitted from the Ahlul Bayt, because we know that generation after generation, a lot of traditions were lost. A lot of the ahadith were lost. There were many companions of the Imams whose books were destroyed by the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt. So when the Imam reappears, he will be able to share with us that legacy of knowledge that was destroyed generations ago by those who targeted the followers of the Ahlul Bayt. And also, today, my dear brothers and sisters, we don't have access to a ma'soom. The best situation that we have right now is that we refer to the ulama. You know, when you follow a marja, when you open the risala amaliya of your marja, that manual of Islamic law does not represent God's actual laws. Meaning they are not, as the ulama say, al-ahkam al-waqi'iyya. That book that was compiled by your marja is a scholar's effort to ascertain what God's law is. When the 12th Imam reappears, he will introduce to us God's actual law. So the ihtiyat wujubi, the ihtiyat istihbabi that we have, these are scholarly attempts to know God's law. when the 12th Imam reappears, what will be different is that we will now have access to God's actual law, and we will not have to be reliant on, al-ahkam al-zahiriyah.